Hello and welcome to Comfy Cozy Up. So yeah, we are slowly getting to the end of the season, which I'm not happy about. I need someone to slow down. So anyway, I'm going to be talking about the books I read in July, and for the month of July, I read 11 books. Three of them were volumes in one for one book. So I enjoyed them. For the most part, most of the books were all over the place. So they're mostly romance, but there was a few contemporary that I had in a mix. So in July, I participated in two different kind of reading group. So the first one was Smussathon, and that one is a romance, a week of reading romance, and they all had like has to be within a theme. And I did a video talking about the books that I was able to read, which was around 3 books. And one was the last book in the Element series by Brittany Sherry, and this was The Fire Between High and Low. And that I talked about how that book was just a bit too heavy for me for a summer read. So I didn't enjoy it as much as I did the other 3 books that were in the Element series. These are books also that are completely standalone. They're not related at all. The characters, the storyline are not related. But they're heavy stories of men going through a lot. So I just was not into it as much as I did the other books. I think if I had waited maybe till the fall to read that one, I might have been more into it. The next one was Reasonable Doubt, and that was by Whitney G. And oh, that book was everything. It was sexy, it was romantic, it had that playful love-hate kind of situation. And these are characters that met online. And they had a friendship, but one character wanted to meet the other one, and the other one was just not having it. But it just turned out they ended up meeting anyway in a very unusual way. And it just become this beautiful story, and I actually loved it. And then the third book I read was Birthday Girl, and I did a video dedicated to Penelope Douglas. And if you haven't watched it, go watch it. She is one of those authors that I've just a big fan of right now. This year was the first time I read any of her books, and I read 4. And this was one of those stories that dealt with an older character and younger woman. But the way she did it, it was just a beautiful story. It was very well done. It was very like slow romance, and it made sense, and you really got to understand why this kind of relationship was possible. But I talked about that in that video. I will definitely link it below, and you definitely should pick up a Penelope Douglas. She is the author to read when it comes to unusual romance novel. So the next book I want to talk about is The Kiss Potion, and I also did a video, no I didn't, I did a blog post, sorry, that I talked about this, and this I thought was a beautiful story. It is about a young girl she has autism, and she's very brilliant. She's an economist, and she also, very brilliant when it comes to math, and she's like that person where she'll sit down and try to figure out everything she could possibly figure out that is interesting to her. However, she doesn't connect well with men. She has a hard time doing that, and she has a mother who is like a bit overbearing, who's constantly trying to set her up with someone, but she just can't connect to a man in a sexual way. So she decided to hire an escort to help her. And the escort wasn't, the typical guy that you would think. There's just something about him that was different. But their relationship blossomed into something more. I just loved it. It was funny at times because of her social anxiety issue, where she would say certain things, and she was brutally honest. She didn't know how to really curve certain things she said. I loved it. It was just such a good romance. I think this is one of those romance novels that a lot of people can read, because it does have some erotic content in there, but it was still kind of done well, where it's not overpowering of the story. So I'll definitely put the link to my blog post on it, but this is definitely a good summer read. I think I would recommend a lot of people. The next book is by Jenna Austin, and that is Good Girl. And I picked up Good Girl when it just came out, and I took forever to finish this book. And because the beginning of the book was just boring, I was just like, no, this is not the Jenna Austin I loved. This is not the author that I've read pretty much all her books, I think. I don't think I've any books she's had that I've never read. So I was kind of like surprised at how slow and painfully boring the beginning of the book was that, okay, I said, okay, put it back and try again. And then when I got to about 50% of the book, I'm like, what happened? Because this is the author I know. It got so funny. I laughed so hard. I had moments where I was screaming in public because it was so funny, some of the stuff that she was talking about. Because that's the author I know. She tends to do a lot of romance with comedy in there, and she's very sarcastic. So when I got to the book, I said, oh, I just wish the beginning of the book started out the way the second half of the book started out, because I would have probably flew through it, because the second half was so funny and was so good and I loved it. So it's just so disappointing that the beginning had to suck. So that's how I feel about that book. Then the next book is by Colleen Hoover, All Your Perfects, and this one I did a video review of that one, so I'm gonna link that below. And this one again is you know, Colleen Hoover at her best, where she talks about a complicated relationship. And this one is a married couple who are struggling to have kids, and they're just struggling to keep their marriage together, you know, when they want to have kids, and there's just situation that's not allowing them to get to that point. So I love this, and I connect to it on a personal level. So I definitely think you should watch my review on this, and you know, and definitely recommend this one. This is really interesting and good romance novel. The next book is from Dee Dee's read along, which is Sag Harbor, and this is Colson Whitehead. And this book, this was an interesting one because it felt like reading a memoir. This is a story of a young boy one summer in 1985, and he's in Sag Harbor, which is part of the Hampton, and he's just basically boys will be boys, the shenanigans with his friends. I would say the author writing was excellent. If I had to grade him the writing, he's definitely a 5-star writer. However, I had moments where I'm waiting. Okay, what is gonna happen? Okay, something good. So it was just, I felt like I was constantly waiting for something else to happen, but it was just definitely just a memoir feel, and it was just boys will be boys, summer, and shenanigans, and his family drama it was just okay for me. It didn't catch me as much as some people who I noticed really loved this book. But for me, I still felt like I was missing something every time. I was waiting for something to happen, dramatic. And maybe because I've been reading a lot of dramatic books lately, that it's probably tainted on my views on a book that's just, you know, this is charming. It's just a cute, interesting summer story. I think if you were a kid in 1985, you probably have that reminiscent, because there's a lot of historical content in there where they talk about things that were related to 1985, whatever music was going on, whatever political thing was going on at the time is mentioned in here. So it's kind of like, you know, a trip down memory lane for some people. So I think that's where a lot of people who really love this, I feel like they connect to it in that way, versus me where I'm like, okay, what else? So yeah. The next book is Bane. And Bane is a spin-off from Scandalous. And I had this idea in my head that he was going to have this story that was going to be like, he was just going to be that sexy bad character. He's going to get that girl that's going to like show him a thing or two, and he's going to have to act right. And then no, she went deep with this one. I don't put this book down God knows how many times, because it was just like heavy. This is another heavy one. It was just the female victim in here is a rape victim, and she is, you know, basically she feels tormented, and she's going through a lot, and she isolates herself from everyone, and Bane is paid to kind of get her out, do stuff with her. He's just like this charming guy that he just figured, okay, he could get her out of the house, he could get her to work, to live again, to have a life. And it was very cliche in terms of course, you know, Bane is bad and Bane know how to get the girls and things happen and they fall for each other. But it was just, this is not the story I wanted. I do enjoy it. I'm not gonna even, you know, like I did find it very sweet and cute, and there's certain parts where I felt like, oh my God, that is just so heartbreaking. But I was rooting for him to kind of turn his life around and help this girl. But a part of me just was not thinking, based on the fact that I read all 5 books now in the series, and the other 4 books had a different theme. This one went dark, and it went dark where it just didn't match the other 4 books storyline. Like this one was like, I mean, I guess it's a spin-off, but it still kind of like went completely off for me compared to the other one. So yeah. Now, the last book is my most anticipated book, and that was How to Love a Jamaican. And yeah, this book is a lot to digest, because this is my culture. This is stories that I'm very familiar with. Some of these stories are related to me, things that I've experienced, things that my mother experienced, things that I have where my family members have experienced. So it reads in terms of me relating to those stories. But there are moments where some of the stories were not enough detail. The title also, How to Love a Jamaican, also didn't feel like it tied in with a lot of stuff. I get the idea of what she was saying for the title, because we're complicated. A lot of our relationship are so deeply rooted in generation of mess and generation of feeling lost, and a lot of the stories are related to immigration. Either, you know, you're immigrated from Jamaica, you're living in America, or you have a situation where you are living in Jamaica, but perhaps your parents are here in America and you're living with a family member, which a lot of us have experienced, including myself. So there are moments where I was just sad. It was kind of like, you know, she just an ear out with dirty laundry. And we just, you know, I'm flipping the page like, you know, and there's times where I laugh. I mean, there was those moments where I'm like, if she talk about tripe one more time, I was going to lose it. So, you know, but then also there's this sexuality issue, and how, you know, my country's very homophobic. And, you know, when she talks about the characters who, you know, hide in their sexuality and cannot be truthful, sadly, that's a case for a lot of Jamaicans. And so, you know, but these are short stories. So because they're short, they not in depth. There's not a lot of character development because they're short story. So I think for me, reading it, I got a lot from it, and I got a lot of the message from it and what she was talking about, because I could relate to it. But I find that a lot of people who aren't might be a little bit confused on a lot of stuff, because, you know, the kind of short, some of the stories are so short. I do like the one, my favorite one is what is this? Oh, We Eat Our Daughters. And I literally, when I was reading this, and I felt like this is so true of a lot of Jamaican mothers, and the idea of being an obedient daughter, of having these goals that are set for you, you know, especially like education. I did not have that choice of education. It was more of, sorry guys, it was more of, you're going to college, you're going to get that degree. That's the end of the story, especially being an immigrant child. So, you know, I had those moments where I'm thinking, yeah, Jamaican mothers are heavy duty, but then when you get older, you appreciate them. You tend to still not be that open, though. You're not as open as you would like. I have a great relationship with my mother, but there's certain things that I would not have a discussion about with her. Up to this day, as much as I hang out with my mother and spend a lot of time with her, there's just some things I won't. So I think for this, I was just kind of like, yeah. But I would say she's I would love for her to write a full length novel, because the kind of short story she's come up with, I just feel like if she was to like pick one and write a full on story about, it would be amazing, because the short story just gave us a good taste of what she's capable of writing. And for the most part, I gave this book a 4-star. Again, it's just not a 5 for me, but it was definitely a 4-star. So yeah, and that is it. It's a long ass video, I know, but 11 books, guys. So thanks for watching, and go ahead and check out all my links of videos of reviews I've done, and all that good stuff. And thanks for watching, and have a good day.